left to edit.
Siri's talking to you.
All right, Commissioner Snyder.
Here.
Commissioner Bone.
Here.
Commissioner Glazer. Commissioner Glazer. Does anybody know if Commissioner Glazer is connected?
We don't think so.
All right.
He was.
He was?
I thought I saw him earlier.
Okay.
I haven't
about
seen him yet.
How about Commissioner Twilliger?
Here.
Dorian? Commissioner Dorian? Has anybody seen Commissioner Dorian?
No.
Steve is just connecting and
I see Steve's connecting. Yep, I see that. So I'll mark him Dorian though. And Chairman Geisler, you're here. All right, so we have 6 present, 1 absent. If
You forgot me.
oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Nosen. I apologize, Commissioner Nosen.
I'm not here.
Okay, you're not here. Perfect.
And
Mentally or physically?
Glazer is
All right,
here.
if I see Commissioner Dorian come on, I'll mark him as present.
Okay.
Have a good meeting.
Bridget, you're on.
okay. So everybody should have gotten a copy of the report yesterday. There's, as much business as usual as there can be in this report. And of course, a lot of it is revolved around COVID-19 or demonstrate how we've adjusted to working with COVID-19. So I'm just going to go through and pick a couple things to highlight. And if you have questions over something that I've skipped, just let me know, okay? As of Monday, going to the jail, we have about 135 inmates in the jail. The local count is 76 and 59 are from the federal marshals. We are seeing a little reduction in revenue. I don't know how long that will last. I would say right now the biggest reduction that we're seeing or shortfall that we're seeing in revenue as it relates to the jail and federal marshals is all due to transportation. But we are just not, and that makes sense, right? We're not transporting as many inmates. We're not doing pickups and drop-offs as much as we were. Moving on to Pinecrest, just a general statement about the Pinecrest edition that we've been working on. Late last week, I got information that we have secured all of the funding, the grant funding that we were looking for. So that's a real positive step in the right direction. Yeah, I'm hoping that, with the construction schedule, that this doesn't turn into a 2-year project because of the way we've had to change our response and how construction companies have had to make modifications due to COVID-19. But Kevin is staying in close contact with Three Rivers. Joe and Yvonne Fisher have been pretty active with that group in meetings. So hopefully we can keep it as much on track as possible. Community corrections, jump down to item number 12. So we've had a lot of, Bill, I'm going to mute you. We've had a lot of things that we couldn't do, programs that we couldn't do because of reduced amount of activity and people coming in and out of the jail. So Marissa had written a potential proposed adjustment inside of her current budget and for a new program called Recovery Coaches, and she rewrote she wrote a brand new program description, and she was successful in getting that approved. So we're not getting additional money, but the program is going to cost just over $14,000. So what she was able to do was move money from one project area in the budget to another because there are things that we can't do and we can't get reimbursed for. So I see Gay has her hand up. Gay. Oh, you have to unmute yourself. Oh, you're still muted.
Okay.
There you go.
We'll cover that later. We already passed that subject, and I'll cover that when I give my responses later. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Okay. Equalization, again, not quite business as usual because we haven't had our assessors really to be out in the field, which is kind of what they would do this time of year. So I've chatted with Mary about some potential ways to address those issues once we are clear to open back up. Hopefully there will not be a need to, hopefully people, homeowners will not have a problem with assessors still stopping into their driveway. No one's going to be approaching the house. So hopefully that won't be a problem. Emergency management, as you can imagine, has been very busy with, although Jennifer's been able to work on some of her normal work in the last week and a half, 2 weeks, her primary function has been to assist the health department and our first responders and local essential workers with PPE. That's kind of been her main focus. I think last week she said it was kind of like Christmas with PPE because we'd gotten so much of it. So we had to do, we've been doing some distributions, but I think we're also in better shape for a second wave if we have one, because we've anticipated, and again, this is nobody has a playbook for this, right? So nobody knows, we're not following past practices because there aren't any. We're just trying to use the best information we have to make decisions about what we do at this time. Finance and budget. Field work's pretty much done for the audit, right, Mike? Yay. That's good news. Mike and I and Denise were on a call yesterday with FEMA and Michigan State Police on how to potentially get reimbursements for some of our expenses that we've had through COVID. It's not an easy process. I wish I had counted the number of pages in the presentation that Denise ended up printing off, but she has it for future reference if we need it. So, and I have a feeling that we will. GIS, we talked a little bit about the Census Hub at I think our last executive committee meeting. But I'm going to share my screen for a minute and show you all this map. Can you see that? Can everybody see that map?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, awesome. So this basically, there's a lot of data here, and I put the link in in the executive committee report. If you want to, when you open it on your iPad, if you want to link to it, you can go out here and take a look. But the Census Committee has gotten a lot of information, and Nathan our GIS coordinator, keeps dropping more layers of data into this, and you can zoom in and see our information here, depending on what layer you're looking for. I haven't turned anything on, so you can't see any details, but it is a good resource for people who are interested, and we will keep you posted on how that's going. I did have a conversation with Sharon Mortensen about the grant that we received. Who wants to say something? Steve.
Yeah, Steve here. So can you just give us a verbal cue on what the different layers tell us? I saw the different colors.
Yeah.
They may represent something. What would we expect to see if we were so curious as to go?
I think the most critical thing is response rates.
Okay.
So you should, if you go in and play around with it, Steve, you can pull up, it shows different colors based on response rates.
Okay.
So, and that's of course the main thing that we're looking for, right, is to increase
Sure.
the amount of response in Midland County, because it means grant dollars for us, particularly now. Money from the federal government and from the state that the federal government gives to the state based on our census numbers. And, sometimes even grants for emergencies like this are not all reimbursement based. Some are just based on, here's the population in your area and this is what you can expect to receive. So I think it's pretty critical that we, keep working at trying to get those response rates up. What I was going to mention was we had received that $20,000 grant from the Michigan Municipal League to help with our census endeavors and initiatives. And I've started a conversation with Sharon Mortensen at the foundation to see if they would be willing to be the entity that makes the purchases for our outreach rather than us doing that, and we can reimburse them. Because the committee that's actually coordinating these outreach efforts is through the foundation. So it makes more sense for them to be sort of the gatekeeper and for us to say, we'll reimburse you for those, rather than me make an expense here, they have an expense, Nathan has an expense. It seems to make more sense to have it more consolidated. So I'll keep you posted on that.
Bridget?
Yes.
Yeah, it's Scott here. Just for those, I went to the site myself because I had the same question as Steve. And
Mhm.
just so you know, if you go to the layer list on
Yes.
the upper right-hand corner, and the last two layers are 2020 response rate by tract and by government unit. And then it has the color coding.
Right. And I think I showed you that same website at the last executive committee meeting, so I didn't go into
Right.
detail, but we did add, more things have been added since then, Scott, which is why I wanted to share the link again. Scott, just for the record, we can't see you because of the glare behind you. Just so you know.
Oh, how'd that happen? Oh,
There you go. There you go.
well,
Better.
I got issues.
Okay. Glad you said it.
No comment.
Okay. All right. Moving on, health department. I'm not sure what else I can say about the health department. They have been just doing a phenomenal job responding to this pandemic, and still trying to maintain their normal services as much as possible. We've sort of reinvented ourselves in how we do things. And, as Fred's indicated, some of the things that they're doing through virtual appointments, they're going to continue to do that just because it makes sense and it's more efficient in some instances. And if their clients have the technology, then they're going to try and strive for that. Moving on to HR, we are trying to get a few seasonals on for parks, trying to get as much of a soft opening as we can. John and Patrick at the Parks Department did put together some reopening protocols that both Fred and I reviewed, and I think they did a pretty good job putting those together. So they have a good plan in place. IT, we have slowed down a little bit in needing to have response or knee-jerk reactions to people working remotely. So Chris and I and the website committee that we had put together are still trying to push forward on looking at some demos to have our website updated. I know it seems like we just did it, but it was over 5 years ago and we're already sort of out of date with what we have out there. One of the things that I have really been looking at trying to make available when we have this next revision of our website is an employee portal of some sort. So when we have times like this and employees are at home, we can put information out on a secure site that they can have access to. I think that'll really help with communication. So that'll hopefully be part of that. IT number 7. So I really want to highlight this. I think it really shows that our employees are really understanding and becoming more aware about security with email. So we ran a phishing campaign to reinforce awareness during the COVID-19 pandemic because people who are not so nice will take advantage of situations like this to try and gather as much information or get money out of people as much as they possibly can. So our work on educating employees has really paid off. So we only had 2 people out of over 300 employees click on the link in that email. So when we first started this awareness campaign, our clicking rate was 26%, and now we're at 0.6. So kudos to all of our employees for really being diligent and paying attention to what they're doing. And thanks for IT for rolling that out. Mosquito control, I know it hasn't been overly warm yet, but they're out there just waiting to hatch. I figure that when they come out, they're going to look around and say, where is everybody at? Since we're still in quarantine. Though Carl is working to try and get a fogging schedule together with the limited amount of staffing that he has, because as of right now, we can't get any more seasonals trained. So I think he's, working pretty hard to make sure we can cover as much ground as possible.
Are we getting all the help we need from whoever to get that changed?
Well, it's really about social distancing and how we can, having someone available to train. So I don't think it's going to happen until the Lansing loosens up on some of the restrictions, Scott.
Okay, but is our message being heard? Because
Yeah.
when you start talking about mosquitoes and all that I think is an essential service.
It is. If you look at it, well, it may or may not be depending on the time of the year, but right now it certainly is. And when you talk about the fact that we're in the middle of a health crisis, we don't need to make it any worse without addressing mosquitoes, which carry disease.
Right.
So yeah, I think that, we're doing as much as we can. Part of it is being able to train people and still social distance at the same time. That's causing us a little bit of a problem. The reason we're actually kind of lucky, because some of the folks, all the folks that came back, we had about 9 or 10 employees that we could bring back because they'd already been trained and they didn't have to become certified again. So we were all set with that. I did want to show you, there's a link in the executive report to a video, and I was going to show you while we were on the meeting about extension programs, showcasing those their veterans outreach team, but I can't, apparently they've locked me out of YouTube and IT, so they must think that I'm doing too much streaming of videos. But you can access it on your own from your iPad if you'd like to take a look at that. And that's under section number 1 under MSU Extension. I already talked about Parks and Rec, Public Guardian Services. Steve has been doing as much as he can with client interaction. It's been mostly by email, phone, and mail. As you can imagine, that's challenging with his wards. Some of them, just do much better face-to-face, and he's not been able to do that. He has had to be at the hospital for a ward or two. One of his wards did pass away from COVID-19. So he is certainly dealing with a lot right now. And I expect that once the courts open up more fully, that he will be getting more clients. Not too much from trial court, veteran services. We already know all the Memorial Day parade stuff has been canceled. I think, Ross is trying to see if there are other activities that can be coordinated that still recognize social distancing. He's working with the veterans associations here in town to see what can be managed. He is also in the process of procuring 10 sleeping bags that convert to coats, or coats that convert to sleeping bags at no cost for some homeless veterans in our area. So are there any other, and you can see from the meetings attended that I'm on Zoom like all the time. So, which is fun. I actually took a Zoom webinar training. Have any of you heard of the communications training called Own the Room? I have been looking at attending one of those trainings for about the last 3 years and haven't been able to fit it into my schedule. It's a pretty intense 3-day training that they hold different places across the country about improving public speaking. And so they Own the Room collaborated with Zoom. And if we're a paid subscriber to Zoom, you can take benefit of this 1-hour webinar, which was amazing. I learned so many cool techniques. So I'm going to share one with you right now. So if someone's on mute and they start talking, this only works if everybody knows what the hand cues are. So I'm sharing them with you. You don't say, hey, you're still on mute. You do this, you raise your hand, and then people understand, oh yeah, I'm on mute. The other thing is that when we're all on Zoom, and who do you normally look at? You're looking at the screen and you're looking at yourself and other people, but when it's your turn to speak, you should actually know. Tell me if you see a difference. Right now I'm looking directly into my webcam, which for presentation purposes is much better, but it means that I can't see any of you down here because I'm looking directly into my webcam. So just one of those things, couple little tidbits to help you when you're doing your presentations. So other than that, I'm done. Unless there's questions.
No, any questions? There being none, is the counselor here?
I am.
You're on, counselor.
Well, good morning, everybody. The beautiful morning, a little chilly, I think. I don't know what it is where Mark is located, but he's been where it's warmer, I think, lately. Lucky guy.
I was in Tennessee helping my dad move last week.
Yeah. So like Bridget, there's everything seems to be happening in slow motion. And yours truly is being chief cook and bottle washer. And I don't type really well, but I try my best. But a few things we've worked on in the last several weeks is the parking lot construction, 301 West Main Street. Made some suggestions on how to bring that forward so it reflects more the relationship between MDOT and the county, as in the county is only paying for half the construction. The contract that they presented made it seem like we were paying the whole thing, but actually MDOT's paying half, and I thought it important to note that. Worked with the ME agreements for the medical examiner and for Dr. Varani's successor. The non-congregate agreement with the Church of the Latter-day Saints in Stanford for housing individuals. And I'm not sure if there's been any result from that, as in anybody actually taking advantage of that situation. Maybe Bridget knows whether that's happened or not. But in any event, there's a fair number of units which can be used to house people who otherwise are not capable of quarantining themselves, which I think is spectacular. Moving on, the FOIAs are, as Bridget has indicated, everything is slow. FOIAs are slow too, which I think is not surprising. And as a result, we've managed to maintain our pace and keep up with the FOIAs that have been submitted. We've been working a little bit with Mike Birchmeyer to secure a redaction software and a computer, which I think we've now basically got, don't we, Mike? And as a result, we'll be able to be more efficient in redacting the new requests for dash cam redactions, which are subject to a separate statute all by itself. In the last few weeks, I've received some, one more thing before I move on is that I did draft the four newest agreements, or should say ballot questions. And this year I made them a little different. We had a occasion last year where a citizen brought up they were complaints at the time. And so I thought about that. I've talked to the citizen and he has not actually responded since last spring, but I did make a change in the drafting of the questions. And you'll note that now the purpose clause in the questions now is at the beginning of the ballot question rather than the end, thinking that it may be easier for people to see what it is they're voting upon before they get to the statutorily required language. Hopefully it'll make it more readable for people and they can make a more informed decision. So if anybody has any questions on that, I'm happy to discuss that. With regard to the Four Lakes Task Force, I believe you all are aware that there was a press release issued by the task force in the last few weeks, and I think that Jessica, you may have that. But before then, there was a document or several documents that were given to me, and I didn't know whether I was able to distribute them or not, but I am now told that I am. So those documents are the amended and restated Articles of Incorporation of the task force itself, the bylaws of the task force, and a governance document, which includes those two articles and the some governance principles and committee descriptions for the task force. So today I'm going to send those over to Jessica, and they will be available for your review at your leisure. And I think that will be somewhat enlightening if you wish to see how they're going to operate. And I found them interesting. There's only one question I have regarding that, and that is the application of the OMA and when they intend to not use it versus use it. And of course, that's the Open Meetings Act. So with that, I'll be transferring that to Jessica, and she will have that available for your perusal. And that's about it.
Anybody have anything else for, yes, go ahead, Steve.
Yes. Bill, I guess just a couple of questions. And since we're talking about Four Lakes, do you have any update or have you heard anything on this? I guess there was I'll call it a protest group that apparently raised what, $5,000 or $6,000 to secure an attorney to do their own inquiry into the project assessment and overall management. You remember what I'm talking about? That they were protesting why the cost of the project went from the original 20 million up to 35 million.
I have not heard anything new. There was a $5,000 request, maybe an approval of $5,000 to be spent by one of the townships in Gladwin County. That I believe was submitted to the Gladwin County Board of Commissioners, and I don't think they have taken any action. So an attorney from Traverse City area who has been in contact with I don't know what his name is anymore, but his kind of the gadfly of Gladwin has requested this, and I don't know if they've actually retained this gentleman or not, and his name escapes me at the moment. But his job was to see if to be a overseer and see if the expenditures were correct or maybe within his ability to approve. I don't think there's anything that's come out of it as of yet.
Okay.
There is a lawsuit filed recently by Lee Muller and Boyce Hydro in federal court against the state of Michigan, alleging that the state of Michigan was going to file a lawsuit against Boyce Hydro in state court regarding the 2018 reduction in levels of not Sanford, but Wixom Lake.
Yes.
And that's been filed. I've been promised a copy of the complaint. I have not yet seen it. But Four Lakes Task Force nor the Four Lakes Operations, FLO, neither of those are implicated in either lawsuit, which is what we want, of course. So that's going to be a debate, I think, between Boyce Hydro and the state of Michigan. The state of Michigan is essentially claiming that Boyce Hydro lowered the lake level and destroyed habitat for what they allege could be millions of lake freshwater clams. And
Well, I thought it was some stupid mussel that I also heard was an invasive species.
It's a mussel. I stand corrected, and don't know where that's headed, but state of Michigan's pockets, and we'll see how, see where this winds up.
Okay. And I guess one other item, you had nothing to report on Fair Board. So that, was an ongoing or lingering question. Do we have the agreement with them that Mike can conduct the discrete,
Audit.
confidential financials?
I believe so. I'll defer to Mike, but I believe so.
Have you met with the Fair Board to go over their finances and give us a thumbs up that all appears in good order, or have you not undertaken that yet? You're waiting?
No,
for
I haven't.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I have not undertaken it yet. Yeah,
All
I'll
right.
have to circle back and touch base with
But I
the
think-
folks out there. Go ahead, Bill.
I think that can be done whenever Mike, feels appropriate, or they may not have their financial results from the previous year yet. It's been, everything's been interrupted, as we all know.
Has a decision been made on the county fair? On whether that will take place this year?
Not that I'm aware of, but the one thing that will change is that it won't be a 4-H fair, because MSU has eliminated all face-to-face interaction prior to September. And that includes all of their affiliate organizations, including 4-H. So 4-H program coordinator and the university are working on trying to find ways that kids can interact and show, whether it's virtual or whether they can do it as, like, if the world is opened up back then, by then, Scott, the question would be, can the kids participate in a youth fair, and they could enter as youth rather than as 4-H members, because our fair has two separate divisions for showing things. You can, like, I could enter in the open category. I could enter things like cake decorating or food entries or photographs. So there are a lot of what you would call open classes. And so the goal would be to try and see if we could make modifications to have youth open classes and go from there. But that's really, it's all pretty preliminary right now. And I haven't heard anything else about the fair not actually taking place.
I can tell you that I've been getting email requests to purchase animals already.
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of communication from clubs, encouraging businesses to purchase the animals from the youth that have worked so hard to raise the animals and won't maybe be able to show them at fair. So I'm not surprised by that, Mark.
I did have my hand raised, and I wanted to circle back on the 4 Lakes topic. This is Gay. My question would probably go to Jeanette and perhaps Bridget. What's going on with the Board of Commissioners, the Gladwin Board of Commissioners, and are they meeting on a regular basis? Is it virtual? Just trying to keep an open sense of communication between them and us. I think that it could be done by a Zoom meeting for sure, because we do our managers meetings. Does anybody know what the status is?
I don't have any idea what they're doing in Gladwin at the moment.
Jeanette?
I can check. I have a Wixom Lake meeting on Wednesday, so I'll be in that with a couple of the Gladwin commissioners. When I attend the 4 Lakes Zoom meetings, myself and the Gladwin commissioners are on there, but that's a lot of listening. So we don't go back and forth. The commissioners are primarily on there to listen to the updates.
How would we go about determining, just to make sure that we have a hand reach out for any potential communication anytime they would like to call a meeting? We would be glad to entertain meeting with them, just to make sure that we have an open line of communication on this, because I don't know, I think that I'd heard just a few things, that there's a lot of turmoil going on up there. Did they replace several commissioners? And please review that for me.
I'll just weigh in on that, and I'd like Bill to weigh in.
Thank you.
I don't know that we should be initiating any meetings with them without following the direction of the Four Lakes Task Force at this point. But I don't know, Bill, what are your thoughts?
I think it's a discussion that we probably need to have, maybe initially with the Four Lakes Task Force.
I agree, but I just want to have open lines of communication, and people, if they are not informed, then they start making assumptions, and those could lead to negative repercussions. And so, yeah, for sure, talk to Four
When there's
Lakes.
a vacuum, someone fills it. Mark, you had your hand raised.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I kind of agree with Bridget, and well, Bill, you didn't really weigh in a whole load on that, but I think we let them do their own thing. We do our thing. I think the work we needed to do together has been done. I don't think there's anything as separate boards we need to do. So I think if they're going a little crazy, a little separation may not be a bad thing for our board from theirs, quite honestly.
I can talk with the counsel for Gladwin, and she is pretty much in tune with what's going on with the board, and get an informal read on what they're doing, if that would be of assistance.
I think that would be beneficial, Bill, just to, so that we have a global idea of what's going on. You know, for me personally, if I don't know what's going on, then I'm one of the ones that starts to think, well, what's going on with that? So just like a couple of global statements. Thank you.
I'll contact the Tara Holby and get back with, well, either you next time we have a meeting, or before if it's urgent or important.
Jeanette, did you have something?
Yeah, I was just waiting. I do, Four Lakes has done a very good job. I do think that there's nothing wrong with just, Midland extending a hand. I believe that Midland's going to handle a lot of the administrative type, since, we have a good organization team here, but we have to remember Midland's 20% of the funds and Gladwin's 80. And so we do just want to make sure that they're on board and everybody's happy with open communication. And I think the Four Lakes is doing a good job with that. And I know that they've had a lot of change on their board, but I don't view that as a negative thing. I think it's positive. So,
Mark, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I guess I'd like to retract that crazy statement. That is not the way I meant for it to come out. I guess what I meant is if there's a little bit of turmoil up there. So just wanted to clarify that.
By the way, when you're raising your hands, if you'll raise them so I can see them, okay, it'd help me out. Mike?
Jim, I raised it virtually.
Virtually, okay.
Yes, it's in
They're using the hand raising function in Zoom.
Yeah, well, I can see yours, Bridget. You're scratching your beard now.
Yeah, it is getting a little long.
Hey,
Yeah.
Jim.
Yes. Yes.
What they're saying is if you look at your iPad, in the very top right corner, there's 3 dots. If you press those dots, there's a little thing that you'll get a drop down box, and then there's something that says raise hand. So that's how we're doing it. That's why you don't see it. We're doing it on the computer.
Ah, okay. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
I wanted to talk to Mike about the fairgrounds. We decided to only have them have an audit every other year. The question is now, are we in the every other year now? Is this the year that they should be coming forth with their audit?
I'll need to touch base with them and see when their where they're at in the process, and then when their audit will be ready for me to take a look at.
Okay.
I believe so, though. This would be the year that they would have an audit done. I can verify that and send a note out to everyone once I confirm that with the Fair Board.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Anybody got anything else? I'm hitting those 3 dots, Mark, and boy, it doesn't do a damn thing for me. Okay, now, if nobody has anything more for anybody, we can start on our commissioners' updates on boards and commissions. We'll start out with Commissioner Snyder. Do you have anything you would like to bring
Yeah,
us current on?
Thanks. I just took it off mute. Well, so I gave a little bit of update on Four Lakes. I think we covered that well.
Yes.
I'm not doing my township meetings. I know some of them are doing things via Zoom, but they're doing pretty lean meetings just to approve the bills and items of that nature. The road commission, they really want to get to work and do some things. They're able to do some, and thankfully, with the 2 millages, they have a lot of equipment and they have a lot of trucks. And so they're able to do 1 person per truck, and they're able to do shifts to do the social distancing. So they're doing some of that. I have a meeting on Thursday. So that was as of, what was it, 2 weeks ago? So maybe a lot has changed since then. And I'm going to try my first Wixom Lake Board meeting on Wednesday. And all of this is Zoom, but it's spring. So all of my weed boards and lake boards are going to be starting back up. And I'm thankful to get some normalcy to life again. And I don't mind attending meetings, and it's a good thing. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mark, you're next.
I really have not had any board meetings, so I have nothing to report at this point.
Okay, Steve?
Yes, I did attend a virtual meeting with Community Mental Health on Tuesday, April 28th. They have been working with their staff to enable remote working. They're finding that there have been anecdotal reports, I'll frame it that way, that they're finding the one-on-one computer interfacing with clients has been working very, very effectively, and have been getting some very, very positive feedback from folks that said they've gotten more out of these recent, and perhaps it's because of the COVID environment that we're in, the anxiety that's bringing out, that people are more open to communicating and perhaps sharing what's going on. So it seems that has been working out very, very well in a very, very stressful time. The director did report that this whole mid-state, or not, I guess the Department of Health and Human Services, Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, has kind of put all of the redesign effort for combining the mental health and physical health services. So all of that's on hold, gone into the back burner. And so that's pretty much what's going on in mental health. And then on Wednesday, May 6th, I did attend the Parks and Recreation Committee meeting, again, virtually. That went well. We got a lot of activity reports that everything's been canceled or postponed. And so by and large, things are going as well as they can. And we're fortunate to have a number of returning staff. And we already talked about that a little bit in Bridget's report. So that's all I have to report, Mr. Chairman.
Is there any, do they want any more summer help, or are they got enough?
I think right now they're in pretty good shape. I think that they probably have one or two additional slots, but I think that's fairly typical, and they will probably continue their hiring quest as they need it.
Okay.
One of the highlights, I think they did report that they have a pending dredging project. Jeanette, you can help me fill in any gaps that I may have here. And I think this has been something that John has been collaborating with Bridget on to secure funding, and then also the grants necessary to fill in the gap to undertake the dredging around the boat launch area. So I'm not sure exactly when that will get underway, but I think that we have all of the funding secured. I don't know that he has undertaking any bidding process to move that along.
Thank you.
Yep.
Is that it?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Terwilliger?
I just want to mention that it sure is good to see all of you, even if it is just virtual. I'm doing well with the Zoom meetings, but I prefer face-to-face.
Here.
And I would say that many of the meetings that I have are going in Zoom. I'm not quite sure what's going on with senior services. Seem fairly disconnected with them. And similar to township meetings, similar to Jeanette, they are having Zoom meetings. They're very, very bare bones meetings, paying the bills. They don't want too many people there. They have to stay under 10 people, and they are not virtual. So the two meetings I would say that are a lot of activity because they have direct care and services would be Drug Court and Pinecrest. Those are both Thursday meetings. They're both Zoom. Pinecrest is doing very well. There's just a lot of care going on and following all the rules and regs and the latest EOs. And Joe's binder is about that thick now because he takes a picture of it and shows it to us so that we know. And he has very frequent communication. And I have a meeting this Thursday. Everything's going well. Communal dining is not happening. That's been gone for probably about 3 weeks. Bridget, I did want to make mention for the Strosacker grant. I didn't know that they had affirmatively said that they were supporting. We think that they will support, but everything else has come through. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know that we've gotten written confirmation yet.
Correct. Yeah, we don't have the written confirmation from Stroh, but we just got Gerstacker and we had H.H. Dow about 3 weeks ago, and Three Rivers is really moving forward fairly fast. So that's Pinecrest. Drug Court is advancing people and graduating clients. The services similar to CMH are going well, even though they're virtual. And I know that Marissa did do the grant that she just secured. Big thumbs up for Marissa Bolton for her. She did get a positive thumbs up for our corrections grant for next year. And it was anticipated to have some significant cuts, and it didn't. For this year, and Molly always says, she's our state person, that, well, you're definitely going to get cut next year. So, so a thumbs up for that. But the Marissa did ask clients what they were missing, and it was sort of an anecdotal sort of getting feedback, and it was recovery coaches. They thought that they were very effective in staying sober. So that's where the new program came from. And Drug Court is going well. That's virtual. Who knew that this was going to work as well as it does? And That's pretty much all I have. Thank you.
Thank
Any
you.
questions?
We're gonna move on to Commissioner Noson.
Yeah, just real quickly, the one virtual meeting we had was with the environmental subcommittee of MAC. And the only real issue as we're debating the platforms that are going in to be approved at this year's annual meeting, the issue of line 5 has come up pretty extensively. It doesn't affect us directly, but the issue became how much do we truly endorse Enbridge and the line 5. At the last annual meeting, there was an amendment made from the floor, which is fairly unusual, but it is there is a rule for it that was initiated by the counties in the UP, as you might imagine, in support of the line 5 tunnel. And you should know that the Environment Committee of the of MAC is it's about half pro business and half pro environment. But there are a number of folks who had a problem with MAC taking such a forward position in support of line 5, particularly since Enbridge is a fairly decent sponsor to MAC and MAC activities. So there could be the perception of impropriety there. So what we ended up doing is we modified the statement and made it a little bit more, we're supportive of solutions that are safe and effective and provides the UP with the needed energy that they require. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention, that there was the issue of potential impropriety on line 5, and we do have, as you can see in the whole state, there are a lot of folks that believe one way and a lot of folks believe the other way. So stay tuned. And that's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you. I'm next. Dorian never did make it, did he?
No.
So I have nothing to report. Now we commissioner comments. We'll start with Commissioner Schneider. Do you have any comments?
Sorry, takes a moment to take it off mute. I think it's been a good meeting and it's good to see everybody, and it's good to hear that we're starting to do, more in the county, a little bit more. Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Bone.
I have no comment.
Commissioner Glacier.
Yep, looking forward to the governor's restrictions being lifted here. My heart goes out to people who are being forced to stay home, as things appear to be receding and are really struggling financially. So I hope this all comes to conclusion here soon.
Thank you. Commissioner Twilliger.
Yes, I would like to just add on a humorous note that I was wondering if Carl Nanke down in Owasso cuts women's hair as well. That's my big question. And he actually he's quite an author, and that's part of why he's doing it, because he has all of his books all lined up there. He's a character. We bought books from him before. He sells stuff up in Frankfurt. So that's the story. And I have to drive through there to get to my son's for a quick visit. And it's pretty hysterical. That's all I have. Thank you. The humor note.
Thank you. Commissioner Noson.
Yeah, just congratulations to all of the county commissioners on this call. All of us on this call are going to be running unopposed in the election coming up. I know Eric has some competition on the Democratic side. I think we have a great team here, and I hope it continues. And so congrats to all of you.
Well, thank you. I am very concerned about the governor and how long she's going to continue to fight the Senate and the House. So I'm going to spend a little more time talking to Stamas and anybody else that can lead me in the right direction. Bridget, you're looking at me like I'm.
No, I just,
Go
if
ahead.
everyone is done, I have something else I'd like to share because I'm not sure everybody saw it. So
Okay, do
I'm
it.
gonna quickly share my screen, if that's okay. Can everyone see Jennifer's emergency management Facebook page right now?
Not
Is that a
now we
thumbs up?
can.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
It's showing up now.
Okay, great. So Jen shared this yesterday, and the Michigan Air National Guard is going to do a flyover today. Basically in the whole Michigan Strong effort, just as a thank you and a show of support for those working on the front line and those battling COVID-19. So a guesstimate of when they might be flying over the Midland area is between 12:55 and 1:05 today. It looks like they have a beautiful day. And the sky is pretty clear so far. So hopefully if you're lucky, give or take 5 or 10 minutes on either side, just to be safe, you might get to see them.
I hope they don't run into the Thunderbirds.
Or
The
the
Thunderbirds
geese.
They're
Birds
flying
are-
at different elevations.
Thanks, Bridget. I appreciate that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
The Thunderbirds are also in town, just so you know. I say in town, they're in the Midwest. So they're flying over Chicago, Detroit, and I forget the last major
It's
city.
Indiana,
Oh, Indianapolis.
Fort Wayne, I think, or south of that.
I
Well,
think
if
it's
we're lucky,
Indianapolis.
maybe we'll get to see both. Maybe they'll make a detour north.
Yeah.
I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
So
So
moved.
move.
Moved and supported. Meeting is adjourned until Tuesday, May 19th, 2020 at 9 a.m. to meet in a regular session of the Board of Commissioners and for the committee to resume their duties. I'd like to thank you for letting me say that without being interrupted.
You did an
Okay.
awesome job.
Thank you.
Have a great day, everybody.
All right,
Yeah,
bye.
signing
Thank
off.
you.